The 76ers get a win. We haven't heard that in a long time. Some career highs as well. We're going to break it down right here on Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On 76ers. We're your host, Keith Pompey, 76ers beat writer. I'm Kayla, Santiago, sideline reporter for the Delaware Blue Coats, the NBA G League affiliate of the Philadelphia 76ers. If you're watching us on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. In addition, you can check us out at the free daily newsletter on LockedOnDaily.com. So the 76ers win 122-103. Keith, we saw some smiles tonight from the 76ers squad.
Yeah, we saw some smiles tonight, and the thing is, I know there's a lot of people in Philly that's like, no, what are you doing? What are you doing? But this was the perfect game to win, and the reason being, with the Brooklyn Nets winning on Tuesday night, the Sixers were 3.5 games up, right? So basically, all the Sixers had to do was lose one more game in their remaining 3 games, and the Sixers will clinch the 5th worst record in the league. So right now, I'm just want everybody to relax and chill because, they won this game, but all they have to do is lose against the Atlanta Hawks or the Chicago Bulls, and the Sixers will get that 5th spot. So that's cool. But, yeah, it was a lot of excitement. It was one of these games. It was Jeff Dowtin's homecoming game. He ends up with a career high 30 points. He had 30 people, family members and friends in the stands. So he had a point per family member per friend. The thing about it is it was a lot of balance. Quentin Grimes had a double-double. It looked like he was on pace to get a triple-double. Even Colin Castleton ended up with 14 rebounds. Lonnie Walker, the 4th, had another phenomenal game. He had 24 points. But again, like you alluded to early on, it was one of those games where if you were a rotation player, you weren't playing for both teams. So right. It was crazy. But the one thing that I want to point out, Kayla, that this game was physical. And it got to a point where Lonnie Walker picked up a flagrant foul 1 for shoving someone to the ground, right? Yeah. So they were going at it, right? And it seemed like nobody wanted to talk to him after the game, but I walked up to him and I wanted to ask him about that, right? Because the guy who pushed him to the ground was Keyshawn George, and the crazy part about him. Both of those guys played at the University of Miami. So when I asked Lonnie about it, he said, just a young fella kept pushing me. Sooner or later, you got to stand your ground. I'm not the type of guy to really get into any type of altercation, but I feel like if you overstep your boundaries and you keep checking my temperature, I got to let you know where I'm from. And where he's from Reading. So he let the guy know, or Reading guys, how they get down. But he continued to say, it's just one of those moments. So, again, it was a tough game from a physical standpoint, but it was a great game for the 76ers to, celebrate and knowing that they're not messing up the tank.
And I think for the 76ers, too, we talked about this in the last episode. They just want to feel good about a game before the end of the season. This group that, has been kind of in shambles as of late. They're breaking that 12-game losing streak. They're able to go out there. They're able to compete, be physical, and go get a win. So that's good for the 76ers. And once again, I know I saw a lot of the comments on our last video saying, why do you want them to win? Why are you saying they want to win? They should not win. They're fine. I don't think that they're going to win both games. I know they're not going to win both games against the Hawks or the Bulls. So the 76ers, let them feel good about themselves, at least this core group, one more time this season before it wraps up with 2 games left to go. But Jeff Dowtin, we talked about this, Keith, and he had 2 games on his contract in terms of the two-way, right? You can only play 50 from that standpoint. And he went out there at home. He was feeling it. He was excited. He was ready to go. I alluded to before that I got a chance to talk to him when he was with Delaware. And he just said, I just want to win. I'm going to go out there, compete, and get better. And he was getting other guys in on the action too. And it was just good to see him go out there in front of really his friends, his family, and be able to perform. And once again, just feel good, because the 76ers haven't been able to do that a lot this season.
Yeah, I mean, it was good for him to feel that way. And you know, the thing about it is, you know, here's again, like the last game that he played was against the Washington Wizards. This was one of the first times that he was able to play a pro game in front of his family members and friends. So, you know, he felt really good about that. And you know, I talked to him about that after the game, excuse me. So, you know, he talked about, you know, it means a lot. I had a lot of family out here. It definitely means a lot to play in front of them. It's one of the first times I played a professional game in DC. So it's big. It's something special. But the thing was, when he really heated up was in the third quarter. There was a stretch where he ended up scoring 11 consecutive points in that quarter. And it was kind of like he came out, he hit 2 threes, he came down, he hit a jumper, he did like a little spin move and went into a jumper. Then he came back and hit a 3. And then it was one of those things where Quentin Grimes was like, hey, bro, I can play too. And then Quentin comes down and drains a 3. So, you know, he had a really good performance. And those 11 points that he had were all 11 points that he had in that quarter. And it came on the 4-for-4 shooting. And I asked him about that. And he says, you know, I always rely on just putting in work, just getting that opportunity. Seeing one go in, you feel good. I just stayed confident with my shots. I obviously hit a couple. I got a nice rhythm going on in that third quarter and hit a couple more. Everything just felt good tonight. So, you know what? Again, it's not, you know, we know a lot of players didn't play in the game, but this is a guy who hadn't played since March the 26th, and he was out there and he looked phenomenal on this night.
He really did. And on top of having that 11 points in the third as well, that's really when they started gaining separation from the Wizards. He was able to give them that 10-point lead with about over a minute left to go in the third quarter, and then erupted and was able to get a career high in the NBA with 30 points. So Jeff Dowtin, homecoming for him with the 76ers win. That's got to feel good to wrap up their season. Once again, people, as Keith said earlier in the podcast, they have to win both of these games to mess them up in the reverse standings, which I don't really see that happening coming up. So they win this game against the Wizards, which is one we both said, okay, this is a winnable game. It's okay that they won. Let them celebrate. Let them have fun about it. I know 76ers fans are not happy about it right now, but we're telling you where it lies and how that kind of affects the next 2 games going forward. So the 76ers, they get their first win in quite some time. They break a 12-game losing streak. It was good to see 122-103. This team was going at it. They were getting what they needed to do. Once again, Jeff Dowtin having that career high with 30 points too. He was able to tie it in that third, and then, of course, get it in the fourth for Jeff Dowtin in his homecoming game. But when we come back, we're going to talk about some other performances in this contest between both teams that are in the tanking standings. So we will touch on that on the other side right here on Locked On 76ers. And this is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile apps. See guaranteed details at turbotax.com/guarantees. And baseball season is in full swing. And if you know the teams that you like or the players that you're looking forward to seeing this season, there's no better way to get in on the action than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With Prize Picks, you pick more or less on at least 2 player projections. And if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning, Prize Picks keeps every game exciting. Building my lineup this week, I am picking Bryce Harper and Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani, I'm going for one stolen base. Bryce Harper for more than 1 home run. It is that easy, fast and simple. Setting up a lineup takes less than 60 seconds. And when you win, your payout is quick, safe, and secure. Exclusive promos. I always take advantage of Taco Tuesday. Winner Prize Picks offers discounts on select player projections for even more value. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA. Once again, that's LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, make sure you run your game. So a player I want to focus on is Quentin Grimes, because this game, you look at it from the positive point of view where the 76ers win. They kind of get that morale win for them. Jeff Dowtin has a big game as well. At the end of the day, it was a lot of G League guys, a lot of 10-day contract guys going out there and competing. And when Quentin Grimes went 0 for 10 from the field in the first half, I was like, oh boy, is Quentin Grimes finally going to be going down a little bit? Are we going to see him maybe be sat these next 2 games? And then all of a sudden, Keith, in the second half, you mentioned it before, he just figured it out and he saw what Jeff Dowtin was doing. And he said, all right, let me cook real quick too. Quentin Grimes completely opening up in the second half, which was a very odd first half that we've seen from him so far this season.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Like, you know, Quentin Grimes was 0 for 10. But you got to realize when you go into the scouting report, and this is the second time that the Washington Wizards, faced them with Quentin, you realize that he's the number 1 option. So what you do is you devise your game plan to stop him. And there were certain shots that he made, that he attempted, that he missed, right? So, so it's one of those things where, it was some of their defense. A couple of it was like some shots being rushed, so to speak, and it just didn't work out. But I'm here to tell you, like, he was the first player out of the locker room after halftime, right? So when I saw that, I said, I like to see that in the player, because it lets you know that he knows that he was struggling mightily, and that he knew that he was going to get it, to get ready to play. This guy came out and made his first shot attempt, which was 1 minute and 10 seconds into the second half. And he ended up shooting in the second half. He scored 15 points, but he ended up shooting 4-7. He was 3 for 4 on threes, right? He had 4 rebounds. He had 2 assists, and he was a plus 11 in 13 minutes and 42 seconds. And it's crazy because, he finished the game. When we look at it, we look at everything that he did. He ended up finishing the game with 17 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, a block to go with 2 turnovers. And you talk after the game to Nick Nurse, and this is what Nick Nurse said about him. I loved 11 rebounds. You guys hear me happy, or you hear me harping on all those times with our guards that I want to see which of those guys can get on the glass, and he's certainly doing that. 6 assists, got off to a really, really poor shooting start here, 0 for 10, but he usually will work his way out of those from the scoring standpoint, and he kind of did that tonight. And I have to agree, because, typically how many times have we seen him struggling through 3 quarters, and then all of a sudden in the 4th quarter he turns it on. So, you got to give him kudos for what he did. But to me, the thing that stood out was watching him walk out of the locker room being the first one. I'm not saying the first one by like 10, 15 seconds. I'm talking about it was a couple minutes before someone else, walked on the floor. So I have to give him kudos for that.
And when you look at the future of the 76ers, that's a player that I want with this team next season. Now, granted, his production is going to look a lot different if the 76ers are healthy. We're not going to really know what we're going to get out of Quentin Grimes, because there's a difference between saying, hey, go get 20, 25, 30 points a night on this team of a lot of 10-day guys, a lot of G Leaguers, to, oh, come off the bench, 7th, 6th, maybe sit behind McCain, Tyrese Maxey. You're the 5th, 6th scoring option at that point. You don't really know how he's going to adjust to that. You don't know how realistic his impact is going to be on the game once that time comes, that the 76ers look to keep that there. But I do like the attitude. I like the positivity. I like him coming out in a game that really doesn't matter, if we're going to be truly honest. But clearly it mattered to this team to try to get a win to close out their season. I like that from Quentin Grimes, and that's great to hear, because I think that he's somebody the 76ers probably are looking at for next year, and a lot of other teams are looking at as well. And it's showing a little bit of high character from Quentin Grimes. I've already said it before, Keith. He's somebody I want the 76ers to have back in this coming season, and we'll see what the 76ers end up doing. But Quentin Grimes, definitely somebody that just wanted to kind of cook in that second half, and he was able to do so for sure.
Yeah, he was able to do so for sure. But you know what? Here's the one thing that I will say about the Sixers. The thing that stood out to me, or something a little bit of a sad thing, is Alex Reese only played 10 minutes and 54 seconds. He had 4 points. He had 2 blocks. He had 2 rebounds, 1 steal. And, he was 1 for 2 on threes, right? So the sad part is this guy strained his Achilles, and he left the game with that. And there's only 2 games left in the season. Now, he looked okay in the locker room. He was walking okay. But when you think of all the injuries that the 76ers had, I mean, let's face it, they were without 10 guys again last night. And all this guy gets injured, and you're saying to yourself, like, what's going on? And I even talked to Nick Nurse about that after the game. I asked him about Reese's Achilles injury, and he said, yeah, it didn't look too good. He said he had to come out immediately. Hopefully it won't be bad, because we only have a couple of games left, and he needs to get out there and play if he can. And the coach is right. He needs to get out there and play, because if his opportunity isn't with the 76ers, this is a great opportunity for him to impress people, other teams. And, he was playing well before that happened. He had a couple blocks. He made a 3. He had a steal. And all of a sudden he goes out. And as soon as he suffered the injury, that's when he left the game. So, you kind of like hope and wish that this guy can get back and get healthy enough to finish out the season with the Sixers.
Yeah, and that's a tough injury too, to say, do I go back and play these last 2 games, or could I be causing further damage as well? Because, how bad is it? Is it playable? There's a lot of questions that you go on. Is it going to hurt him for next year? That's a really tough injury to come out with. I really liked when he was on the Blue Coats as well, because he can knock down the 3 if you need him. He can also play big inside. In addition to that, I don't think his future's with the 76ers unless for some reason they bring him back on a 2-way, but there's definitely other teams that utilize him. He played really well on his last team in the G League too, and the 76ers were able to acquire him. So definitely a tough position to be in. And Nick Nurse is absolutely right from this standpoint. There's 2 more games left of the season. Teams are looking at these guys, figuring out if they can be on their squad next year, where they'll be if they're with the 76ers. So it's really tough for Alex Reese, because, as you said, he was playing pretty good before he went down with that. So I hope that he gets to play in these next 2 games. Keith, I just think that's a little bit of a tough injury to kind of push yourself to come back from, to make sure that you don't hurt it even worse to going into this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, the hope is, watching him walk in the locker room, it wasn't like, now, again, who knows if he was icing it before we came in there, but when you saw him, it wasn't like typically you look at a guy and you're like, oh, man, he's done. So, You know what I mean? He seemed like he was walking okay, but again, you know, and then also like when you see a guy and they have they mess up their Achilles, the first thing you do is you look at it and you compare that to the other one. Typically, when they mess it up, is a little like knot or shriveled up, so to speak. I didn't see that, so maybe it's, you know, who knows how it feels tomorrow, and who knows what how it actually is, but it just didn't look as bad as we thought. And the fact that Nick said hopefully he could come back, it leads you to believe it's not as bad as it could have been.
He does have a day to rest it as well before they play on Friday, but then they have the Friday and Sunday matchup. So we'll wait and see if he is good to go, because once again, this is a huge opportunity for a lot of these guys to get their last 2 games in, to get their last run of the NBA season, in their last steps, in their last stages of their final interview, you could say, of 2025. But a star for the 76ers that we said shut down, don't have him come back, now wanted to come back, is officially shut down for the season. We'll go into that with Tyrese Maxey when we come back right here on Locked On 76ers. And NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, you save. Thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. It's simple. When any player scores 50 or more in a game during the 24-25 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order, up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. Here are a few ways you can take advantage of this deal. Game day feast. After an epic 50-point performance, celebrate by ordering wings, pizza, or burgers from your favorite spot delivered straight to your door. Late night cravings, whether you're staying up watching highlights or just need a little bit of a midnight snack, use Dash Pass to grab something delicious while saving big. I know I love this because working in sports, we work nights and we work late, and you have an opportunity with Dash Pass to be able to get those late night cravings. Lunch on the go. Need a quick and easy lunch the next day. With Dash Pass, you get your favorite meals with $0 delivery fees and reduced service fees. Plus, now you save even more with this NBA offer that is exclusive to the NBA offer. Fueling your watch party, planning to catch the next game, order your go-to snacks and meals at a discount, and get ready for more high-scoring action. Sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save when any player scores 50 or more a game. Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use promo code NBA50. Once again, that's NBA50 from noon to midnight. After a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants, must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms do apply. Make sure you visit DoorDash to learn more. Once again, make sure you visit DoorDash today. So what we expected, Keith, Sixers star Tyrese Maxey ruled out for the season after re-injuring his sprained finger. Now, a few things that I saw this year, do the 76ers just wait to kind of push this narrative of the re-injury? Is it more serious than we think? What are your takes on this right now with 2 games left on the year?
I mean, I think Tyrese Maxey wasn't coming back at all. I mean, I honestly do. I mean, you know, yeah. I mean, you know, I think what it was is he wasn't coming back. I think the 76ers made official what we've already known. Tyrese Maxey is done for the remainder of the season. I mean, let's face it, you know, Tyrese Maxey hasn't played since March the 3rd. And sources confirmed to me last week that he wasn't expected to play again this season. Now, they did come out with a recent MRI that confirmed his sprained right finger, right? The Sixers said because of a re-injury and related pain that he would be unable to play in the final 3 games. And Nick Nurse even said, you know, I'm disappointed for sure. I thought we were going to get that thing healed up and get him back. He kind of reheard it, which I don't like either, right, at practice. Now, the practice that they're saying they injured it at was the weekend right before they went and played the New York Knicks. But, you know, the thing is, it never made sense for Tyrese Maxey to come back, right? Mm-hmm. And even like they say re-injured the hand was the problem all along. Now, he had a back injury too, but the hand was a problem. And the one thing is, it said was a recent MRI confirmed it. Now, if they would have said an MRI yesterday, if they would have said an MRI today, you know what I mean? Then maybe I might think like, okay, but no, it never made sense for them to play Tyrese Maxey, and I think they know that. And maybe Tyrese Maxey was intending to get back on the floor, but when Joel Embiid went down, when Paul George went down, it just didn't make any sense to bring Tyrese Maxey back. And let's face it, no offense to Kelly Oubre Jr., no offense for Andre Drummond, but they're not saying anything about those two guys, and we don't expect them to come back either. So I just feel like they had to make an announcement on Maxey, but no one expected him to play the moment he went down and didn't come back within a couple games.
What they needed to do, too, is just cover themselves from getting any looks from the NBA, any fines, anything in between. But there was no reason for Tyrese Maxey to come back, especially now you win against the Wizards, and now you're in a situation where you can only possibly win one of your other games. You have to lose at least one game. If Tyrese Maxey comes back, the 76ers have a real chance at winning those games as well. So, yeah, it makes no sense for Tyrese Maxey to come back. You don't want to bring him in for a few reasons. You're not trying to win games. In addition, if the injury is nagging at him a little bit, why make it worse? Why put him out there and risk anything? At this point, just shut him down, get him ready for next year is what you look to be a healthier year for the 76ers. Depending what happens with Joel Embiid and Paul George, at least you'll know that Tyrese Maxey is going to look to come back at full strength coming into the preseason and everything in between with the Philadelphia 76ers. So I'm glad they made the official announcement. Now the NBA can kind of back off the Philadelphia 76ers, but there was no doubt in our minds that Tyrese Maxey was going to go out there and play. Nick Nurse, how truthful is that? Is he really disappointed to be expected? I mean, of course, it might have been nice to coach Tyrese Maxey for a little bit longer this season, Keith, but at the end of the day, Nick Nurse had to be real with himself too and say, we're not bringing Tyrese Maxey back. We're not trying to win any games.
Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, I do think that at one point, Nick wanted to play him, but then it got to a point that it didn't make any sense anymore. Yeah. You know what I mean? It just didn't make sense for him to come back. Not at all, But here's the one thing. I want to talk about something that's non-Sixer related, but it's related to Nick Nurse, right? And what I want to talk about is, did you know that when Michael Malone was fired, he became – so after Michael Malone's firing by the Denver Nuggets on Tuesday, 4 of the last 6 NBA championship coaches have been dismissed by their teams. Nick Nurse won the championship in 2019. He led the Toronto Raptors, right? Mm-hmm. So after that, he was fired, 2 seasons. He was fired on April 21st, 2023. Right. So then after that, Wildwood Crest native Frank Vogel, guy from South Jersey, was fired by the Los Angeles Lakers on April 11th, 2022, 2 seasons after the winning the 2020 title. Then the Milwaukee Bucks dismissed Mike Budenholzer on May the 4th, 2023 rather, 2 seasons after he led the Bucks to the 2021 championship. Now, Malone's move comes 2 seasons after, he led the Bucks to the 2023 title. So, you know what? I asked Nick Nurse about that, right? And I said, when you look at it, do you think that when y'all win championships, that you should get more leeway when things don't go the way some people expect, because you won the championship, and typically you don't hear of NBA championship coaches winning, getting fired like that? And he says, I don't think leeway is what we're looking for. I think anybody is looking for that you're proving you can get the ultimate goal for a team with your own team. He says the roles changes sometimes, but as we know, it's an emotional game. It's a pressurized game, day in and day out, winning and losing game, right? That's for real. You know, everybody feels it day in and day out, and it's tough. So, you know, then you talk about it because we all know that the Malone firing wasn't the only head-scratching coaching move this season. We talked about it yesterday on March the 28th. The Memphis Grizzlies unexpectedly fired Taylor Jenkins with 9 games remaining in regular season. And Nick Nurse adds that I feel bad for both guys. Both of those guys are 2 great coaches. That's for sure. But, you know, to me, it's weird because, you know, you look at people like Pat Riley when he won championships for the Lakers, right? It was one of those things where, let's just say if the Lakers would have had a couple down times, you know, the Lakers owner, the Bus, who was one of the best owners in NBA basketball, would have said, okay, let's give it some time to turn this thing around. But right now, we're getting guys fired while their team is in 4th place in the Western Conference standings in the case of Malone. So, you know, Nick Nurse is a guy who lived it, and I wanted to ask him about it, and he talked about it. And he's funny because he laughed that he said that this is a disturbing trend, right? And the funny part about it is he says it seems like a disturbing trend. I don't know who started it. Then he chuckled, but it does seem kind of strange. And he's laughing because he is the one who started it, because the Raptors were the teams that were the first one to fire a coach after he won a championship like that.
It is just crazy. When I saw that, I was shocked in the sense of what is going on with the Nuggets. I mean, it's so crazy to me, and it raises questions in my head of, you know, all the speculation, the conversation with Joel Embiid going to the owner, not going to the coach about his injury, and the GM, and saying, "Oh, what if something starts brewing there?" But this was completely out of left field, at least in my eyes, with the Nuggets. It's been a crazy NBA season from that standpoint. And I don't like this trend either. I'm with Nick Nurse. I think it is a crazy trend that they're just letting guys go to try to hold guys accountable and everything in between. So, yeah, good stuff there, Keith. And, of course, Nick Nurse speaking on his behalf and feeling it when he was with Toronto as well. And the 76ers, well, they've got 2 games left this season, and they're looking to at least lose one of them to stay where they're at. They will play the Hawks on Friday at 7 p.m. Well, thank you guys all so much for tuning in to Locked On 76ers. For Keith Pompey, I'm Kayla Santiago saying so long, and we'll see you guys next time.